Well, good morning. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. Today, we're going to go a little more local. We're going to talk about Clovis schools. So, Clovis, California, right next to one of the worst school districts in the nation. We have a bright, pretty much a bright, shining example. Not a perfect school district, and there is room for improvement, but a pretty good school district. And today, I am joined by one of the new trustees. I forget which district. It was Betsy Sandoval's, but I can't remember which.
Area 6.
Area 6. I couldn't remember the number.
Okay.
And this new trustee is named Deena Combs Flores. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So why'd you do this?
You know, I'm a patriot. I have been my whole life. And the most easiest way that we can get involved in having a say besides voting is to run for election.
Okay.
And so that was one of the reasons. But also, I'm a lifelong educator. I've been, as a profession, I'm a mom, I'm a grandma, but I'm also been in the profession of education for the last 17 and a half years. And to have the opportunity to have a voice in one of the largest school districts in the state, as well as probably one of the best or the best school district in the state, it's a wonderful opportunity.
Well, that's kind of cool. What is the role of the school board? Can you kind of define that? Because I don't think a lot of people understand what a school board is responsible for, what powers they have and don't have.
Well, we're in charge of our primary duty is to hire the superintendent. And if we do not feel that he or she is doing a good job, then it would be our responsibility to let that superintendent go and hire a new one. But not only on top of that, they like to call us like the big boss. You know, we are overseeing the whole district. We have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that the district is using funds wisely.
So you're like a board up for a corporation, and your superintendent would be your CEO?
Correct. So, we are overseeing. We don't believe in micromanaging, but at the same time, we also feel like not only are we the responsible for the fiduciary part of it, but also, school districts are about kids. And if we do not feel that something's coming across our path that is okay for kids, then we're going to speak up and we're going to say something. So there's actually a moral aspect to it also.
So you see it as a responsibility to protect kids.
Correct.
Because a lot of crazy stuff comes out of Sacramento. We got one party rule, and any idea seems to make it through. There's no counterbalance or reasonableness.
Correct. And just in our society in general today and age, there's just so many things that morally that I don't believe in, that a lot of my fellow, trustees don't believe in. And, we're a large school district, but we're a small community and we're a close-knit community. And we feel that we have that obligation to protect our kids, from some of these harms. I know we can't always prevent it, but we can do our best.
Right. Well, I've met all of the school board members, talked to all of them at least a couple times, some of them much more than that. And I think that generally it's a pretty good board. I'm pretty happy. They seem to have the best interest of the kids in mind, and they don't appear to be woke. They tend to. I perceive them all to be good people. I like some of them better than others, but they're all good people with right intentions, and that's a great start. And I'm not sure that's always the case. I think that there's a lot of school boards, particularly the one we're sitting in, school district we're sitting in, that it's about politics first and their own agenda. And my understanding was education is supposed to be first for reading, writing, and arithmetic. Basic education of kids.
Correct. And, and not only that, though, what's really cool about our board is that in the end, we work together. You have the right to agree or disagree with each other, but in the end, we try to work a lot of our disagreements out, maybe behind closed doors, so that we can come out to the public as a unified front, because it doesn't look good if you have contention. You'll notice most of the time when we vote, most of the time we're unanimous. There was one subject recently when we hired our new um, lobbyists that I went ahead and in public, I was the only dissenting vote, because I have some concerns. But overall, we show that unified front.
The lobbyist was on my list of things because that's highly curious to me. It's like, well, okay, I understand on the one hand why it might be needed, and on the other hand, it's like, okay, that'd be great if it gives you a heads up beforehand of what's coming down the pipe, what legislation's coming forward. But at the same time, I don't know, that puts the school district right dead center in the middle of politics rather than in the dead center in the middle of education.
It does, but on the one hand, I see where they're coming from when they brought this as an issue. Um, there's a very delicate balance. In the end, school districts need money to function, and there are parts to the funding formula that we don't get. There is a part called the concentration grant, which your district has to be 55% more or higher Title I kids. Our average right now is about 48%. So there's about $15 billion that we do not get. So their perspective is that the lobbyists can help us get maybe the most money possible from Sacramento.
Okay. So define Title I kid, because a lot of people won't have any idea what you're talking about.
Title I kids are our kids that are below, the poverty level.
Because like I didn't look at every high school. Clovis High seems to be the poorest district. There's a higher percentage of kids, so something like 60% of the kids are below the poverty level. So Title I.
Correct.
But most of the rest of Clovis, it's not that low.
Probably
So
Clovis East. I'm thinking Clovis East might be next, but I'm not. I haven't looked at every single percentage.
so when I looked at the budget, about 66% of it comes local, right about there. And so that means that the rest of it is state and federal, kind of roughly divided evenly. So that means that most of the money that comes in, though not enough to operate the school district, you're in control of. Sacramento, on the other hand, is incredibly famous for wanting to make you jump through hoops and control how you educate kids.
For sure.
What can the board do kind of to stop some of these things where they don't believe, like you mentioned, it's not moral or it's not the place of a board?
Well, the thing is if it's not, moral is completely separate from political. As far as
Well, hopefully not.
well, yeah, but there's laws, right? There's certain things that we have to follow the law. There's the California Education Code. There are things that we have to follow, correct? There's certain things that we're required to teach, and things like that. But if they don't fall within those categories, then we have more
leeway.
Yeah, we have leeway and more flexibility.
Okay. I thought this was kind of interesting. To show a movie, a PG movie, to a younger kids, you have to get a permission slip.
Correct.
But books aren't rated.
That is true.
I do think one of the vulnerabilities of this school district and frankly every school district throughout the nation is that there are inappropriate books. I have numerous times watched. And I know that all the books are out for review, but there are too many books. Even if all 7 of you trustees spent hours, you need more help in reviewing books from the community, from parents, from grandparents.
Actually, that's one of the things that I have discovered. Now, I've only been in for a short time, right? But that's one of the areas that I have realized. Actually, we have a whole department that does that. We have a curriculum and development building, whole building that is dedicated to that. and they know what us board members expect out of our textbooks, and they know what we don't want to see in our textbooks. And so before, and it's up to each individual board members whether or not we want to go review a textbook or not. So I don't know whether the other board members do or not. The last couple times that they have brought textbooks to our and they've had a preview, I've gone over to the building and I've looked. And the last couple times it's been a math book, it's been a science book, you know, basic, education books, a Spanish book. But I had a chance to speak with some of the administrators over there in that building, and the process that they go through. They know what we don't want in those books, so they actually have people that go through those books page by page, and if there is anything uh, that they think we would be concerned about, they actually flag it.
Okay, I want to point out that in the very recent past, this is before you,
Okay.
but in the last 2 years, within that window, a whole bunch of books were found in libraries. These aren't as much textbooks. A whole bunch of books that would be considered absolutely inappropriate. If I came and read from some of these books at your school board meeting, you'd shut me down. Or Tiffany would shut me down because she's president.
Well, now it's David DeFrank.
Okay, well, still good choice. Now, I'm not necessarily blaming you or the board, but you need to be aware that there are books regularly sneaking into your library, however they get there, that are inappropriate for grade level, books that have to do with sex that are, in an elementary school. And I get there's comprehensive sex ed, but doesn't that start a little later? Doesn't that start in junior high?
Yeah, it does. They have a very mild version of it, fourth, fifth, sixth grade. That's probably the frustration. You're right. It's more curriculum that has, the textbooks that are being brought into the classroom that have more oversight. I'll be honest. I've been on the school board very short time, and even in education, I'm not familiar completely with the process that it takes to bring to bring books into the library. If that's a decision made by the site librarian, I'm not sure who makes that decision. Um, but it's people like yourself, people in the community, who bring these things to our attention, which we're thankful for. We're actually thankful that you bring it to our attention, because then we find out about it and we can intervene. It's just like, when a parent comes and says, a teacher's not teaching this, or a teacher is teaching this and I don't think they should be teaching it. You know, we don't have always individual control of all these teachers in the classroom.
Well, 40,000 students, so what is that? Divide that by roughly 25, because you have about 25 students per teacher. That's a lot of teachers.
Correct.
You have to rely on your administrators.
We have to rely on our administrators that supervise our staff. We have to rely on parents, and community members to say, to bring any concerns to us. Overall, like you said at the beginning of your show, I think, I think we have a really wonderful district. I think we have a wonderful program going on. I think we have wonderful staff members, and we really work hard to support them. But just like anything in life, there's going to be things that are going to creep in, and the only way we become aware of that is if it's brought to our attention sometimes.
I live in the community. I know a lot of parents. One of them brought up an issue. Her child, and I'm not even going to, she doesn't want me to point out the child, was in a choir class, and they spent all their time on transgender, and she didn't learn choir.
Wow.
You can probably figure out who that teacher is. I know that the board is aware of this teacher. Instead of Miss or Mrs. goes by Mix. I don't know. That was really concerning to me. And I'm not really blaming you. I'm pointing out that this isn't a perfect district, that there are some things that need to be dealt with. What is the school's policy? Actually, I'm going to tell what Clovis City Council decided was policy, and I have no idea what the school district's policy is. They decided though, rather than the board members voting on it, they had the city manager have a flag policy that said only the U.S. flag, the city flag, and the state flag could be flown. Is there a policy in the school district about what flags can be flown? Or
No, because it hasn't.
I get your separate jurisdiction.
Right, and it hasn't. As far as I know, I don't know. Again, I'm a newbie, so I'm pretty green. But as far as I'm aware, I mean, the whole time I've ever been in education, just in general, we fly the American flag, and that's it.
I hope that's the case, but I'm told
Other
that
than, I don't know if you've heard recently about, the personal space issue, teachers' personal space issue. Have you heard about that?
right, I have, and I was curious how you guys were dealing with it.
So we want classrooms where students can be educated, free from distractions. And if there are things hanging in the classroom, whether we agree with them or disagree with them, that could distract or create some type of conflict between our students, we don't want that there because that interferes with their ability to learn. And so they came up with a policy, and you have to forgive me because I'm still learning the difference between like the administrative regulations that we have as a district and our board policies. So if I use the wrong term sometime, please forgive me. But they did finesse the board policy that the teachers um, they can have certain things within their own personal space around their desk area, but large things, for example, and it went both ways. So,
Well,
for
probably
example,
a Christian flag and an LGBTQ flag.
correct. So you could have, if a teacher had a large cross hanging in a classroom, that had to come down. They had a large LGBTQ flag hanging, that had to come down. So there was no discrimination. It was equal across the board.
Good.
Now, have we had pushback? Yeah, we've had some pushback, but overall, the teachers have responded, and the couple teachers that have not, then the human resources have taken their appropriate procedures to work with these teachers to get them hopefully to comply.
Well, it's a little different because you're non-union. So if a teacher was truly bad for whatever reason, you could get rid of them a little easier than in a union situation. With that being said, I know all kinds of people that are in other districts that would love to work for Clovis Unified. That's really a positive. The fact that teachers want to work there because they see it as a better alternative. I believe your teachers have a minimum of, or the average above 3 years of experience. So you're not even hiring brand new teachers. You're getting people that have had a year or two somewhere else and went, wow, I got my feet wet. Now I want to go to the good school district.
Yeah.
That says a lot about the environment. That's a promising thing. Do kids salute the flag at Clovis Unified?
Do they salute the flag?
Yes. In the classroom each day. I get it, larger events, they do, but
So I'm not in the Clovis school classrooms. Okay. It is, the policy, to have the flag salute every morning, whether our kids are standing and saluting. I honestly cannot say. I'm a school teacher myself, and I'm going to tell you now. I can't work in Clovis because I'm a Clovis school board member, but I can tell you I've been appalled at the students. I will ask my kids to stand as a teacher. I will ask my kids to stand and salute, and I can't even make them salute, and it's frustrating. So then I have to say, okay, well, at least can you please stand and show some respect, for the flag. And it's really frustrating because, like you said, going back to politics and all that, the politics are like, there's so many things that is important, even just as saluting the flag, that we can't even force our kids to do anymore. And it's frustrating.
well, the left has, and I'm not going to take this into politics a whole lot, but the left has decided that patriotism is wrong, that you shouldn't be proud of your country. Well, I thought the thing that made this country unique was that we became this melting pot and that we all stood for something special, and the left has abandoned that idea. And I mean the hard left. I'm not talking about the traditional left, the hard left that are the wokies.
Right.
And that is really too bad.
I made a comment yesterday. I attended a fundraiser yesterday, and I was having a conversation with a gentleman, and the comment I made was, sometimes, why is it so hard to do the right thing?
Well, because then you've got to be accountable.
Yeah.
That brings me to my next kind of issue. Transparency is definitely an issue. Now, this is an example from the past, long before you were there. Common Core came into the district. This district adopted it 5 years ago, maybe more than that.
It came around. It began coming around like 2009, 2010.
Okay, a little more than that. But you had your first board meeting, meaning Clovis Unified, not yours. And they said, this is the new thing we're doing. They didn't bring parents up to speed beforehand at all. And so there was a lack of transparency. You have a way to communicate with parents, I assume. Whether they read the emails, and I assume that's the primary way, or not, isn't your fault. But notifying them, hey, these are the new changes that are coming down from Sacramento would be a great idea. I would encourage that transparency because it would encourage a conversation between the administration and parents. Because let's face it, you're not going to have a whole lot of success if you don't have parents. That's one of the things that, aside from non-union, that makes Clovis very unique, is that parents are more involved than most school districts.
Definitely.
So there's a real shining hope because people love the fact that parents are involved. Students love it. Teachers love it because it creates an energy and a success.
Yes, definitely.
You've been in several places in education. Is that a unique thing? Because usually it's just a few parents. I think it's a little higher numbers in Clovis.
It is unique to Clovis. I've been a Clovis parent for I moved to the Valley in 2006, and I've been a Clovis parent that whole time, and still have one daughter who's going to be a senior at Clovis High. And it tends, from my experience, and I don't know, well, I do know kind of why. For some reason, in higher economic areas, you do have more parent involvement.
They have more time. They're not struggling to survive.
Correct. Me, as a teacher, I've worked mostly in the Title I schools, so where we have parents who are working 1, 2 jobs, and they don't have that time to insert themselves as much as they would like into their children's education. Where students are having to go home and have responsibilities at home, to clean or to babysit siblings or whatever it may be. So that is a trend that I've noticed, that in the higher economic areas, there is more parent.
We're going to go ahead on that note and take a break. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. Want to announce that, we're on Truth Social, we're on Rumble, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. For all of those that are finding this message through social media, if you like what I'm doing, like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell notification depending on which one. All of those help if you believe in this message and you want to help spread this message. Let's go ahead and come back. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. We're talking Clovis schools today, and I am joined by a brand new trustee, somebody that felt the calling to step up, Deena Flores. Welcome.
Thank you.
Shifting a little bit, recently you had a problem with, and it, thank goodness, didn't turn into a school shooting, but there was a problem where they believed that there was a real threat. And most schools, Clovis included, even though you have beautiful campuses that are clean and nice, which is a heck of a bonus, nice classrooms, good facilities, they're not hardened. If somebody of truly bad intentions came in, how do you deal with that? Are you looking at that? And I know that every school district needs to do a little better on this one.
Yes, they have, and I'm not real familiar with the system, but they have an emergency alert system that all the teachers and all the administrators within the district have on their computers. So if there's an emergency situation, they can use that system to alert. Recently we had the situation at Clovis West that you're referring to, and you know, and just so you know, because we always talk about Clovis schools, about 45% of our district are Fresno
Right.
residents.
Is in the city of Fresno.
Yes, and so we are very fortunate because our outgoing superintendent, Emir O'Brien, who's just retiring, she has created a very good environment and a great partnership with the city of Fresno and with the Fresno Police Department. And so, through their alert system and through their partnerships with, Fresno Police, and then through Fresno Police's connections with the FBI, they were able to respond very quickly to the situation. And, you talk about transparency. We have multiple ways of advising parents through text message, through email, through our peach jar, through, on campus, you know, different ways to communicate. And so I felt like they did a very good job at responding to that. And thank goodness it didn't become
Right.
worse.
It didn't become worse. That was
Although,
the blessing.
although, it's frustrating when someone does something like that so mindless because it wastes school district funds, it wastes city funds, for the police department, it wastes FBI funds, it wastes everybody. But in the end, we talked about this earlier in the show about protecting kids. That's what they did. They came together to protect the kids.
Well, that is a good thing. My thought was most campuses have multiple entrances. Most campuses, they're not hardened in any way. I actually think that we're moving towards, because we have a society here in California, that you're not accountable. Crime isn't crime. Drug use isn't drug use. Homelessness is perfectly acceptable. At least it's perfectly acceptable to the people in Sacramento. So if crime isn't crime and there aren't actual consequences when somebody gets caught for a more minor crime, well, I got away with that. I can do whatever I want. That's the society that California is trying to create, whether knowingly or because they have no idea that their actions have consequences. And I really can't figure that one out.
Me neither.
But because we're moving towards that, is there any thought as to how to harden the campuses? Whether it's armed security, and I'm not hoping I'm hoping none of this needs to happen. But
Well, the one thing they did start this year, which kids have got used to, is they required teachers to lock their doors. And that's never been a policy in the past. So this year, and this past school year, the 22-23 school year, they required teachers to lock their doors. If kids came tardy, then they had to, report through the front office. Because we are accountable, as an education system, we are accountable for our students from the second that they walk out the door in the morning until they walk back into their homes in the afternoon. The other thing that's pretty unique about Clovis Unified is we have our own police department, and they are trained police officers. So we have those spread throughout the district, as well as, we have enough staff on campus that whenever kids are passing, from class to class, we encourage our staff members to be present out in the hallways. So,
right,
during
fights are less common in Clovis than in the surrounding school
correct,
districts.
when it's lunchtime, when it's break time, we have, teachers or administrators or campus safety monitors or liaisons. We have them posted through key entrance and exit points on the campuses.
Okay.
We have cameras. We have security cameras. So I mean, up until now, I think they've done a pretty good job. We have our own resources to protect our kids.
Well, I assume there's 4 levels of law enforcement because you've got your own campus police, you've got Fresno City, Clovis City Police, and then you've got some more rural where I would assume that the sheriff's department, like, a large part of Tarpey is a county island.
Correct. That's where I live. Yep, we have county too. And then also parts, on our eastern borders, like Clovis East and out there is county also.
So you'd have sheriff. So you really have to coordinate all of those, or your CEO, in effect, your superintendent.
Depending on the school site, yes,
Yeah.
that's at risk at that time.
Yeah. I thought this was interesting. Fresno Unified, which gets a much worse result. They're graduating a lot of kids that are fifth grade reading level. They spend something like $14,500 per student. These are slightly old numbers. They're always old numbers, but it's something close to that. And Clovis spends something like $11,500. So about $3,000 difference per student. Yet you get profoundly better results. So it's not always just about the money, even though it's a richer district. And I am aware that when there's shortfalls, one of the cool things about Clovis, I know a lot of Clovis parents, is the teacher says, hey, it's not in my budget. I need this. And the parents are like, done.
Yep.
So that's one of the things that's special. That's why I talked about so much having that connection. Parents are your support group. One of the things that worries me about California is that they've decided that those aren't your kids. They're their kids. They're not the parents' kids. And what can you do to combat that as a school board member?
Well, again, kind of going back to laws and all that,
I know.
where we have the flexibility, we are huge advocates for the parents. We believe that the parents do need to be apprised of what's going on with their students. And we will always advocate for parents' rights. And so we stay apprised of the new laws that are coming, through Sacramento. And we, you know, maybe that's part of, us getting a lobbyist now. So we could, when issues like that come up, that we can have a voice in Sacramento. But we will always support the rights of the parents.
Is there a newsletter or something that regularly goes out to parents, like a monthly type of thing,
Regular newsletter. We have
or an email that kind of in that form where this is what's going on with the school? Clovis is great at accentuating the positive,
correct.
but they probably should also say, hey, these things are coming.
Right. We have each school site does their own. And so things that are going on at their school site, then the administrators are going to send that, communication out. As a district, and that's via email, that's via text. But we do have, our website, which has everything and anything you need to know about the school district. We also have an app. I keep it on my phone.
Didn't know about the app. I've been to the website many times.
Yeah, we have an app. In fact, I love it because, for example, when I was looking to buy a house, because I just moved into a house recently, and I had to make
Congratulations.
thank you. I had to make sure though, because I was elected to Area 6, I had to make sure that this house fell within my area, but also it had to fall within Clovis High because my daughter goes to Clovis High.
Oh,
And my area has a small chunk that's Buchanan High. It has a small chunk that's Clovis High. And the majority of my area is Clovis East. And so I was able to go onto the app. And when I was looking, at buying homes, I could type in the address and it would tell me the exact trustee area, the middle school, the elementary school, the high school. And it was pretty neat. But that app also links to the website.
I know. I've used it.
Okay. Oh, I thought you said you weren't familiar with the
Not
app.
the app.
Oh, the website.
The website. I didn't realize the app linked, but I've seen it on the website.
Yeah, so the app links. And then, we do post on our website. We have legal requirements for notification of our board agendas. So we post those on the website. But as far as like an overall like district newsletter, I don't believe we have anything like that other than what we post everything on the website.
I would recommend that there is at least something simple that goes out when anything big comes up. That would be a good way to communicate with parents because let's face it, every administrator or every principal might not get it done. So if there was one person that kind of made sure that the district was communicating with the parents, and I hate to create another job, but if somebody kind of watched that, that would be a useful thing.
You know, I did notice as a parent that, for especially during COVID, you know, things were changing all the time during COVID. All the mandates that were coming down from the state, and you know, the district would make decisions based on what Sacramento was saying that they had to do, or the local, you know, health department was saying they had to do. And then as soon as they made those decisions, 2 seconds later, it was changing again. During that time, I know Dr. O'Brien was very, very good. She did many Vimeos where she actually, you know, did presentations to the parents and to the districts. And we did receive actually those in email quite often throughout the pandemic. So, you know,
Well, but you have a new superintendent, so at least this bug, since I'm assuming you have her ear,
yes,
you should plant this bug.
yes, yes. And like I said, I've been in the district for 17 and a half years as a parent. And like you said earlier, I've been overall pleased with the way the district has operated. Okay.
I think that's totally fair.
And, you know, I was, you know, as a teacher, I was involved, you know, I was working for Madera Unified at the time, and I was involved in that transition to the Common Core. I was not really aware of what was going on as far as how they transitioned in Clovis. And so I can't speak to whether they did a good job communicating or not communicating the
They
transition.
did not.
Okay.
They said, here we are, this is what we're doing, jump in line.
So, but I can say, like, for example, during the pandemic, that Dr. O'Brien was excellent about putting out these Vimeo presentations and sending them out to parents. So we were always apprised as to what was going on in the district during that time. And I really appreciated that.
There's something I think that Clovis is falling down on. Actually, Fresno Unified and multiple other, whether you're going to other Fresno County boards, Board of Supervisors, City Council, they're a lot more generous about how they allow you to speak. It's not just a matter of time. Board of Supervisors might give you a lot more time. Clovis City Council often will give you a lot more time unless there's a bunch of speakers. But there's a sign-up issue at Clovis. If you're not there before the meeting starts and they put the table away, you're not speaking.
Correct.
Okay, so how does that allow a parent that, say, had to work late but still wants to speak? They don't get a voice. There's a problem. Here's how Fresno Unified, and this is probably the only example I can come up with where Fresno Unified is better than Clovis. They have somebody there that handles all that. You walk into the room, and even if you're late, as long as you're before your speaking time, you can sign up to it right there. I love that because that allows those people that want to be involved but maybe can't get there because of work, they still get involved. The other issue is Clovis decided when it was busy, when there were too many speakers, and I understand you have to cut down the time when there's too many speakers. But now you're down to much more minimal. I've watched some meetings online. I haven't been to one in 4 or 5 months, but I went to 22 straight.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to 22 straight and spoke at 21 of them.
Wow.
I was late once, so I didn't get to speak.
Oh.
Now you're down to 2 minutes. I really think that in order to have feedback from the community, you need to move that back up to the standard of 3 minutes. So I hope that happens.
Well, and actually, I heard you and some other people who brought up that issue, and we have been talking about it. You're right. It was reduced because I wanted the history on it because I'm a new board member. And you're right. It was because at the time there were tons and tons and tons of speakers. You know, now if we only have 4 or 5 speakers, I think we figured going back up to 3 minutes, that would only add like 5 minutes extra to the meeting. Okay. I don't know if you've noticed though, recently when, you know, usually because they know they only have 2 minutes, they usually prepare something so that they can get everything they need said during that 2 minutes. But there have been quite a few speakers recently, actually, that go a little bit over the 2 minutes, and we let them finish.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. but there's a huge difference having been in that situation with both a 2-minute and a 3-minute, where and how you prepare what you say is completely different. It's much more difficult to express an idea in 2 minutes than it is 3.
It is.
And having spoke to boards, various boards, more than 50 times, I don't really know what the count is at this point, but more than 50, there's a huge difference. So I hope that Clovis finds a way to fix that one.
We are discussing it, and also we left it to also we recognize that our board president also has the prerogative to extend that time on the spot if we feel it needs to be. Or there have been many times where we've actually asked the speaker to come back so we could ask them questions.
Good. We're going to go ahead and take our last break. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. So for this final segment, I want to focus on the positives of the school district. Maybe some innovative programs. There's lots of cool things in music and sports and academics. So anything you know about those. Let's go ahead and come back. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. We're talking Clovis schools, and we're going to kind of focus on the best part of the Clovis schools. I am joined by new trustee, Deena Flores. Welcome.
Thank you.
And so for this last segment, there's always, pick the issue, there's something to complain about. And I don't know that it's useful to leave yourself in that place. You need to focus on a path forward and focus on something positive. Mindset matters, and leaving us with positives, I think, is useful. So what do you love about the district?
All the opportunities there are for children. We recognize that not all children are college bound.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a lot of wonderful CTE programs. We have a lot of athletic programs.
If they keep a kid there and motivated, even if they're not going to go on to college, they're still there getting an education because they cared about, let's say, sports. Sports teaches them discipline, but more importantly, if it kept them there and got them to finish their schooling.
Correct. You got to, that's what's neat about Clovis Unified is because if you keep a student, like you said, involved in extracurricular, then that's less time that they can get in trouble, right, after school. So,
idle hands.
Yeah. So, so some of the really neat things, huge CTE programs out at Clovis East.
So define CTE.
Career technical education.
Okay.
So, for example, at Clovis East High School, we have our ag farm. And just so you know, anything that we have at a specific site, it's still open to all students within the district. We bus them there,
okay,
or they get transportation. So, for example, we have the ag farm out at Clovis East. We have a huge medical and nursing program out there also. We have a firefighting program. We have a junior ROTC Air Force program out at Clovis East. Okay. Clovis North, they have an EECU.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
So they can learn how to be a bank teller and all of those other jobs.
Correct. And they have students that are running definitely under the supervision of, an adult, that has worked for the credit union. But they have students that are actually, running that,
So they're job ready.
Yeah. They're getting on the job training,
That's cool.
Yep. You have, huge, like, for example, my daughter participated in color guard at both Rayburn Intermediate when she was there, and then also at Clovis High. You have huge music programs, choir, band.
And they're good.
Very, very good.
I mean, they're impressive.
Jazz bands, orchestras, all of them are very, very good. But I know, I'm kind of prejudiced right now. I had 3 kids that graduated from Clovis East, and then I have one now that graduated from Clovis High, and another one who will graduate next year. And so Clovis High's music program is wonderful. We have, we just updated our pool deck over at Clovis West High School, and we hosted, the CEF, I may misspeak because I'm not very good at
It's
this, but
basically a state championship,
yes,
right?
we had state championships over at Clovis West, and we just finished renovating the pool deck, to put in a nice shade structure and good, technology systems, for this. We just hosted the state championships for the track meets,
Mhm.
you know. So it's an honor, that they can come to our area and that we can have such wonderful facilities for events such as this, And so that's what I think is so neat about it. We all of our kids, you'll hear kids talk about A through G. You'll hear counselors or schools talk about A through G requirements. Those are the courses that they need in order to be college bound. So we expect all of our students to learn as if they were college bound, but we provide other programs also for those kids who end up not being college bound.
Well, for instance, Clovis High is about 60% minority. So, and almost 60% economically disadvantaged. So it's not like everything in the district is rich. You're with less money, you found a formula that provides success. Less money than Fresno High or Fresno Unified. Sorry, not Fresno
Oh
High,
yeah,
Fresno Unified.
yeah. Just that concentration grant alone would, if we got that grant, that'd be about $15 billion to the district, but we don't receive that.
Currently, you get something like a little less than 700. Let's see, 700 million is your total budget, was what I found online.
Right, and about
So we're talking big money.
yeah, and about 95% of that goes towards our salaries. So you think about it, we have these beautiful facilities, everything that we're doing with what about 5% of our budget. And so what's really neat about Clovis Unified is they seem to be able to do more on less.
That is kind of impressive. National rankings I looked up, and these vary a little bit depending on where you look, but national rankings were about two, 2,790 approximately out of all the school districts in the United States. That's
And
a pretty big deal.
how many is did you figure
I
out how
did
many
not write that down.
Oh.
Yes, but it's quite good.
I'd be curious to know how many school districts in the whole United States.
I wrote it down and it's not coming to me. I looked at too many numbers this morning. But in California, your rank is about 410 in some ways, and it's much, much higher in others. That's kind of a bad number, as opposed to if we break it down into more specific categories. Clovis is doing really well for California.
Oh yeah, we're way above this what this the state publishes all the scores, English and math scores and our science scores and all our different testing, the statewide assessments that we do, those are all published, and Clovis Unified is always way above
Right.
the state average.
Now, not number one, so there's room for growth.
Always room for growth, and and you talk about mindset, you know, an educator is not an educator unless they're reflecting on their practice and what we can do, and we like to look for the wins. So growth could be just a little bit or it could be a lot, but we're always looking for growth.
Absolutely. I thought it was interesting that your worst high school has an 86% graduation rate, and most of the district has very high 90s, 96, 97, in that range.
We're a little bit, I think we're a little bit lower. Well, no, that's our attendance rate. Never mind. Sorry.
And that has to do with the fact that students care because they're in the right environment, teachers care, administrators care, parents care. I'm hopeful for this district, though. It has problems, but I'm hopeful for this district. We're down to about 55 seconds.
Okay.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I just appreciate you having me here. I think it's really important, like you said earlier, I think it's important to focus on the positive. And I believe that Clovis Unified School District is a benchmark for other school districts. I think if other school districts could do even half of what our district does, they'd be worlds ahead.
Absolutely. Well, I'm hopeful for this school district. I'm hopeful for our country. even though there's all kinds of problems facing us right now, Americans are known for being innovative. If we can find some of the things that made this country great and teach people those, how we move forward is full of possibilities.
Maintain the positivity.
I thank you for this time.
Thank you for having me.
This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. Wasn't too bad, was it?